would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hey guys, we're all done with the Heisei. Time for our retrospective, and you see why I love this?
I see why you love it so much. It was just so consistently good.
Exactly. Now, let's make this clear. We are not going to do a best to worst list.
It's so consistently quality that it's really hard to.
Now, if we were, Space Godzilla is the bottom.
Yep, and Destroyah is the top.
Yep, and I will say this, for the original, for sake of by comparing it to the others, is the second.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only by comparing to, if we're wondering what we're eating French fries we just made, so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's franchise. Just starting from, we'll start from the very original again, since the very original was the beginning point.
Oh,
what do you think about knowing what came after this one in this era? How do you think the original compared to how it was connected to the Showa? Where Showa kind of felt like it
was fairly disconnected for the most part. Like, obviously you had some bits being brought back, but it kind of felt like, yeah, they were just kind of writing by the seats in their pants for most of the movies. Whereas here, you could tell that there was a bit more of a consistent vision for it.
And a love to the original.
Oh, yeah. Bookended it very nicely.
Oh, it was Destroyer, yeah. But it was 1985. Now, if there's one downside for 1985, it's how much we're able to accept Godzilla being the one doing it all and everything. And it feels like, it feels more like the Showa. It felt like like Showa happened when we know it didn't. Because it feels like this is a 30-year gap, not a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
I guess have a 10-year gap of them being that blasé, but 30 years, no.
Mm-hmm.
You are not that blasé when it's a 30-year gap.
Yeah, I think that alternately you'd try to maybe think that, hey, maybe that's just the Americans trying to create a BS situation in order to cover up their shenanigans, so they try to blame it on a boogeyman.
Or Russia, even.
Mm-hmm. Either of them, really.
But, yeah, but then, but they were still playing it smart, though, at the very least. Like, let's not cause a mass panic. And that didn't last that long, thankfully. Mm-hmm. Once they found out Russia was, had their sub-attack, they realized, we gotta tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Of course, Raymond Burr back as Mr. Martin really connected it, more so than Godzilla raids again.
Yeah.
And just so much of this felt like the fact that we know this was a second monster. Now, I will understand, those in universe the whole time do not know.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, because it's just like, hey, we never found a body, so we don't really know if there were two of them.
And the only person who would know how the Oxygen Destroyer would destroy the bones too would be Emiko. Mm-hmm. And given the state she's in by Destroyah, I don't think she was talking.
Yeah, she probably just
she was suffering survivor's guilt.
Yeah, she didn't want to really make an appearance in public life after that, unless she was absolutely forced to.
But thankfully she never did. She just had to talk to her nephew and niece.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, I just want to get that out of the way. I feel so bad for her, because just imagine the guilt. Mm-hmm. It's because she revealed the Oxygen Destroyer that led to Shirazawa's death.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised she didn't get together with Ogata, especially when she was unfaithful as well. In conjunction to that. Mm-hmm. She's probably thinking, if I was faithful, he might have stuck around for me.
Mm-hmm.
You want to bet?
Yeah.
Like, he might have accepted her revealing it all to save the world, but add that in conjunction to me being unfaithful.
It's just like, I deserve what I get.
Exactly. And I bet you Ogata tried. You want to bet Ogata tried his hardest to keep it together?
Yeah, it just didn't work. After that kind of trauma.
Yeah. And sadly, the actress passed away a few years later.
Yeah.
And she didn't look that bad. You know, I mean, she didn't look like she was ancient decrepit, so that makes even more of a punch to the gut. If she was looking on the older side, I might be like, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. But, you know. But, yeah. But going from that, but again, we go through that one. And Godzilla is the most animalistic. Even more animalistic than the 54 movie. Like, the 54 movie, he felt like an animal, but he felt like he had a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, you get what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, where it's just like he had a sense of drive as opposed to going purely on instinct.
Which is what Godzilla... I don't think we ever saw it as feral of a Godzilla as we did in 85.
Yeah, we really didn't.
Then come Biollante. Oh no, beat the Godzilla we know because he's pissed. But just sticking back to the original for a second. When you look at how well, though, Japan handled it. That's starting one thing that you would see in the Heisei. And going forward, even in the Millennium one, the military were handled a lot more respectful than they were in the Showa. Let's be honest, the Showa, it was standard fare, and they never did anything good. Would you agree with that? The Showa movie, it was like...
At best, they were more or less...
They were cannon fodder.
Yeah, more or less they were mostly useless in order to demonstrate how strong the new monster was.
But thanks to the introduction of G-Force later on and all the other stuff, the military in here, while they were still ineffectual a lot of times, they had more wins throughout this era.
Yeah, because every time they did so, it's because they worked smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And it shows even in the first one, the Super X, which was not designed for Godzilla, it won. It took him down, and it didn't kill him, but it did take him down. They could have been able to move him somewhere. But then that stupid Russian missile had to go off and then revitalize him, and then it took out the Super X. And then the way they took him down, looking back, it's dumb. The bird call, would you agree with that? I didn't mind it at first. It didn't mind it at first, but looking back, it was dumb.
Yeah, or it's just like, we were previously thinking of like the Showa. And sort of like comparing it to that, but now that we have a whole lot better movies to compare it to.
It was dumb. Then again, looking at the suit, I still think they had Showa on the brain a little bit. Like, still being respectful to the original, but look at that suit. But yeah, and then you had, but then we go into Biollante. This set a high standard.
Yeah, this like set the high bar. It's the exact opposite situation
of Raids Again,
where it's just like, okay, we got our feet wet in the Godzilla pond again. Now let's absolutely kill it.
Let's use an original monster, but not even have it be the main bulk of the story. Let's have it be everything around it. Let's take something that worked with Terra Mechagodzilla with the father-daughter thing, but actually do it in a way that makes you more sympathetic for the father. And let's add in a bunch of other factions that can throw wrenches into everything. Like the son of a bitch. Exactly. And then let's have a cool monster that's very original.
And
devastating.
And quite literally and figuratively sows the seeds for a lot of the rest of the narrative.
No, they didn't know that at the time, obviously. But you brought in the idea of the G cells as well. Something we wouldn't see until Space Godzilla. You'd also introduce some good characters, like the young guy, the young military guy. And Godo, whose death would then inspire stuff in Space Godzilla. You had the Super X2, which gave us the ideas that would lead to Mechagodzilla. Not right away, but eventually would. And yeah, it set the groundwork for so much. It gave us the awesome suit that we would receive for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
I say the first one brought us back Godzilla. The second one set the groundwork.
Yeah, for what the rest of the Heisei era was going to be.
But it was still in the shadow of the first one, because look at how the monster size and everything, how the battles were, how the buildings were. It was its own thing. But once we got to King Ghidorah, we're back
to form again.
We are back to form. And we're gonna confuse the fuck out of you.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those cases where, oh good God, we learned the hard way that the dub, while we enjoy it for the most part, it creates so much plot holes.
And it's just like, I think part of the reason why I was kind of okay with the time travel plot, because it's just like, at least it's not the 15 millionth space invasion movie.
Nope, it was not. It was guys from the future who wanted to. But funny thing is, this movie sets up stuff for Destroyah.
It really does.
Yeah, like Godzilla never destroys never destroys Japan. Why wouldn't he? You know, things like that.
Yeah,
because
it foreshadows things without directly saying why.
Obviously, they didn't know when they wrote it. And then you have, but again, King Ghidorah, not the greatest, greatest design, but not in execution. Would you agree? Now, as far as how dangerous it was the best mind control of King Ghidorah. Because I would give the Futurians that. They were devastating when they were controlling it.
Yeah, and it had a better explanation as to how they were able to control him, because more or less they made it.
Exactly. And, I'll be honest, those Dorats were adorable, weren't they?
They were.
But I'm still confused, like, how did their heads turn into the, the wings and body match? The heads did not. Because of the hair. But, also, this was the point going forward where we would have characters we would recognize that we had not seen at all, except for Shirazawa in the first one. You remember that? Because like, we were remembering their names and everything.
We're a lot more attentive to their arcs. Yeah, they were just developing stronger characters overall.
That made up for a lot of the plot's inconsistencies. Oh, we didn't talk about in Biollante. We got introduced to Miki.
Oh yeah, Miki Saegusa.
Which, let's talk about her for a moment.
Oh man.
You see why she's my favorite?
I can see why. Now there's how you do a strong female character right.
Yep, who's not like totally like, I am woman, hear me roar. She and she wasn't ever. She was never that way, except for the dub, but we don't fault her for that.
Yeah, it's just like, she was a lot more show don't tell with a lot of her strength, and it was just a lot of emotional resilience in the face of crippling moral dilemmas.
Which didn't get bad until Mechagodzilla. Beforehand, she was, and now granted, she helped out big time in Biollante, but let's be honest, her use in King Ghidorah and Mothra
was kind of incidental, really.
Although Mothra, she did still help out, but it didn't leave that much of an impact on her character. Mechagodzilla is where it did was Baby. Once you had Baby in there, and you could tell, they even made it clear. They even spelled it out for her. She felt she was questioning herself. Baby was responsible. And then you go into Space Godzilla, where that's her, the one time where she's the dominant character. Again, the dub made it to her detriment. And then it all wrapped up with Destroyah, where she came full circle. Her powers were fading, and she felt like, I'm done.
I'm ready to retire.
Although with Junior taking over the mantle, I'm sure she's going to help that new girl out. And who knows, maybe she'll be like, maybe I'll see what's his name again, from Space Godzilla.
Now that I've got that chapter of my life behind me.
But yeah, I mean, I felt so bad for her. The fact that in 2 movies you have people pointing out about how she could be living her life, and you can so see the look on her face. It's like, you think I haven't thought of that?
Yeah, didn't think of how I more or less sacrificed normal life so I could save your ass?
Exactly, and make sure no one slaughters Godzilla either, because I'm one of the few who knows what he thinks. Which, that's the one thing I like about her. She's not annoying about her love for Godzilla.
Yeah, it's just like you can...
Some would be annoying. Ichi with Gamera, anyone?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, with her, she had a love because she understood that he's just a confused animal. That's all he is. Whereas Space Godzilla is the only true evil. Because even Ghidorah was not evil.
At least this time around.
No, he was controlled. Now, granted, he was still malicious even when he wasn't controlled, but let's be honest, he was flailing.
Yeah, it's just like he didn't really have enough execution to really manifest that maliciousness into anything really serious when he wasn't being controlled.
Yeah, it was just lingering.
Yeah, whereas, Space Godzilla...
I also remember, what did they say with the Dorats? It can pick up your emotions through microwave impulses. It was probably picking up Godzilla's and returned in kind with being, wicked as wicked.
Mm.
But yeah, with Miki though, the actress was always good.
Mm-hmm.
Even, and I'm just saying her performance, you know what I mean? Because obviously we're not hearing the actual actress. We're hearing the dub actress, but still, overall though, she is still doing so damn good, acting her heart out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the look on her face when Junior got dropped.
Oh yeah, we were all feeling that.
Yeah, when she was like, oh, no. You know what I mean? And so many times when she does lash out, you can tell it's not solely out of anger, but out of resentment or frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Never out of malicious anger, which is why when the dub say, you men are all alike, you're like,
yeah, that's not her.
you're not Masako.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to her in a bit. But yeah, but back to King Ghidorah. Emmy. You can so tell, she was an idiot. Let's be honest. She was an idiot coming there. And it's obvious why she came there. She wanted to see her homeland back before it became the great power.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to have known what they were up to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I gotta say this. As far as human enemies go, while I hate that son of a bitch, Wilson is the worst human enemy.
He really
of
is.
the whole franchise.
Yeah.
Well, not the franchise, but the whole era, I should say.
Of the whole era, yeah.
He was the worst because they came there for petty, greedy reasons and totally mocking Emmy.
Yeah.
Even when once they revealed, oh yeah, we sent you off there so we can find what Japan's up to. He didn't mock them more, saying, I was hoping someone would come up with a smart idea, like make another Godzilla. And then even at the end, when they've lost, he still looks at it as a victory. Like, this Godzilla's unfriendly. And he was like, you son of a bitch. Like, he was both an idiot and effective. Because that's the thing about King Ghidorah. There's so much in there that you really have to stop and use your lore. Don't follow what the movie's telling you. Which tells you I don't think the writers realized what they were doing.
Yeah.
Do you realize that? I think, at least they didn't make it so bad that you couldn't no-prize it. I mean, overall, like, looking back over all of them, what are you looking at with King Ghidorah as a movie? Do you think it was still good because they set so much up? Or do you still think it's kind of like, nah?
A little bit of both. Like, yeah, it had its place, but it could have done it a lot better.
Agreed. But then we get into your girl.
Oh, yeah.
Mothra. And again, aside from Godzilla, Batra's not even a villain. Just an aggressor.
Yeah. It's just like...
Just an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's the edgier sibling of Mothra, more or less.
And Mothra and the Cosmos don't understand him, and they're just assuming things about him. I mean, I don't blame them.
I mean, he looks scary.
And he came about and started attacking humans after after something that controlled the weather. So of course you're going to assume, oh, that's what he's here for. You're not going to think, oh, he's going to destroy a asteroid thousands of years later.
Or rather, more like a decade later.
Oh, no. I'm talking about when he first came about.
Oh, fairly.
Which was thousands of years ago. Remember they said mankind...
Oh, right. Yeah, I must have gotten those mixed up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, and Batra was a very good character, and Mothra was a very well handled. The Cosmos were the best they've been. And the side characters, we loved them. I mean, Masako was great. The dub, I loved her sass at first, but as it went on, And then Ando, the fact, the guy played by the guy who would be the dad in 2000, loved him. Just both for his facial expressions and the dubbing voice. Except for the whole, now it's getting its revenge. Earth is getting its revenge.
Yeah.
So many times the dub just introduced stuff that made it more heavy-handed than it was. But anything you want to say with Mothra?
Yeah, I know that there may be some people who didn't like the fluffier design as much. I am not one of those people.
Right, and I respect that. I completely respect that. But how does it compare to the Showa version?
I think I like them both for their own reasons.
Well, okay. And this would also set up stuff for Space Godzilla. But next we would then do what ended up trouncing Biollante, Mechagodzilla.
Oh yes, it seems that anytime Mechagodzilla appears, it's gonna be good.
Definitely. I mean, we're 4 for 4. We had King Godzilla versus Kong, You've had the 2 Showas, and now this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got 2 more to go.
Oh, man.
But yeah, though, overall, though, this one felt like an accumulation of everything. They could have ended it right here.
Yep.
With a humanity victory.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in the long run, I'm glad they didn't end it here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're introduced to him more so with Junior. You brought in Rodan.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that would have made this perfect was if Ishiro Hondo had directed it.
Uh-huh.
He was game for it. And it feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sort of feels
In
like,
spirit.
hey... Yeah, it sort of feels like this was supposed to be his movie, but sad face.
Exactly. And Rodan was great. His bond with Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Baby was all adorables.
Mm-hmm.
And just everything about this, I mean, it's following what was based, I've realized I think I told you this before, from King Ghidorah onward, you feel a bit of a trend in how things go with these movies. Not in a bad way, not in a predictable way,
Mm-hmm.
but you get what I mean, right? Like you have,
Yeah.
there's a style.
Yeah.
And this one's no different. It follows the same style from, those first 2 are enigmas compared to the remaining 5.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, like I said, is no different. But again, I do love how they start to bring in more American actors into these because they're dealing with the UN.
Mm-hmm.
So of course you're gonna have some Americans helping out.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's weird when the dubs over the American voices.
It's like, do you really need to do that?
Well, it depends. Given how very atrocious some of the acting was in the Gamera's original footage of the American compared to what they edited in, might have been for the best. These could have been actors who couldn't act, who weren't meant for acting. Or weren't that great at acting, for all we know.
It's just like, hey, here's somebody who happens to be an American that we know.
Exactly. From what I've heard, the acting in the King Ghidorah bit in World War II, the whole Major Spielberg and all that, was worse than the dub. The dub at least made it funnier.
Mm-hmm.
So, pick and choose. But yeah, this one, I mean, a great fight. A great monster. And again, one thing I would love, the consistency. Except for Space Godzilla, Godzilla's always the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, with the exception of the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
For 5 of the 7 films, Godzilla's the aggressor every time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else is trying to stop Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Even Batra.
Yep.
And with this one though, it felt like everything was built up for this. You had Mechagodzilla, you had the synthetic diamond, you had Mickey, you had everyone, everything. This was the accumulation that they were building up to. And it feels, when you look at these last 3, this movie and Destroyah, it feels like a thematic, like they're connected.
Mm-hmm.
Space Godzilla, not so much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not saying that Space Godzilla didn't fit in, obviously, it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
But after this one and it leads in, Space Godzilla was just the breathing room we needed, even though it has a villain that should have been in a darker film.
Yeah.
But, let's be honest, Space Godzilla was the best alien invader we've seen in the whole franchise up to this point.
Yeah, at this point, it's like an alien invader that actually makes a fair amount of sense.
Aside from Ghidorah in his first movie.
Mm-hmm.
But even here, he's scarier than Ghidorah was in the Showa version anyway.
Yeah, he just, he gets to Earth, he kidnaps Junior, and he just immediately sets up camp around a power source in a city in order to just sort of expand out his role.
And he wants to kill his genetic donor. He wants him dead.
It's just like, move over, you were just the delivery boy.
Exactly. Well, technically Mothra or Biollante were, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like, you were just the prototype.
You're just the sperm donor.
Yeah.
Yeah, me, I'm the superior one. Me.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, you could tell what was going on between the 3 Godzillas.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially that attack on Birth Island.
Yeah.
You felt it, you know what I mean? And I think that was one of the best we saw between Godzilla and Junior.
Oh yeah, where it's just
Blew everything with Minya out of the water, even in Son of Godzilla, right?
Oh yeah, much better.
Yeah, because in the way it was in Son of Godzilla, and for one, Godzilla really wanted to be the father figure in the Heisei era. It just took Baby having to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why Mickey had to, coax him.
Yeah, where it's just like, hey, I do actually care about you, and so maybe that's why Rodan was then motivated to go get the egg.
Well, and I think it's why he sacrificed himself by giving the power to Godzilla. It's like, I know he's your kid. You're the only one who can help him.
Mm-hmm.
And good God. But again, with Space Godzilla, that one, it was the weakest one. We already talked about that, but now knowing what we do going into Destroyah, do you think it was needed? Besides being a breezer, I mean.
I think it's sort of like helped Godzilla's character development in a way.
And the humanity development.
Yeah, it was sort of like the developmental bridge needed to get to that point. So I'd say that even if it wasn't the best, it still served a purpose.
Especially the letting go and moving forward aspect. Kind of was needed. Although again, Yugi kind of, every time you think he is, then they keep having him relapse. And then it feels like he only stops relapsing because he realizes, all right, bigger danger. Which tears me up, you know what I mean? But, and then Destroyah, the grand finale.
And what a finale it is.
The best finale. Better than Destroy All Monsters as far as the finale. Destroy All Monsters was a great final romp.
This one was a lot deeper and had a lot more feels.
A lot more tied in. We've already talked about the video, so we're just summarizing
it. Had just some of the strength of like the tumult of Terror Mechagodzilla while having some bombing fights like in Destroy All Monsters.
Definitely, and good God, Destroyer was a great final villain.
Space Godzilla sort of sets up, hey, maybe there's a future in which we can actually have the monsters coexisting with humanity, and that's sort of the ending we get to with
Junior taking
over, yeah.
Yep. Now, here's the big thing. How does this compare to Showa?
Oh, it's definitely leagues better than Showa. That's not a dispute.
Yep. Even some of the best of Showa, I won't say it pales. I'm not going to go that far, but it's its own kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Like Terror is the only one that truly matches some of the best of the human stuff. But even that, when you really look at it, yeah, they kind of put the Godzilla stuff in there, but you could disconnect it and make it its own movie. That's the thing I know about a lot of the Showa era human stories. You could take them out, take out the Godzilla stuff, rework the Godzilla stuff, and it could be their own movies. And
it just sort of feels like Godzilla was there for name recognition purposes.
A lot of time.
A lot of quantity over quality.
Whereas here, though, they're interwoven. You cannot separate them because they are. Because that's the other thing is, a lot of those Showa ones were about stuff that just happened to use Godzilla as a plot device or whatever. It was never really ever directly about Godzilla. Whereas in the Heisei, it's all about Godzilla. Everything is about Godzilla and how he's affecting the world. And it feels like, again, they build off of it. Again, I think having Miki helps with that.
Yeah.
Or that general who was there throughout almost the entirety of it. I didn't point out, but you recognize him, right? That one guy who got the older man, the one who was always like, "Oh, what? What do you mean we can't attack Godzilla?" You know, that guy. I mean, he's a guy who's like a military man who's thinking about trying to protect his country. Even if it means sometimes making the dumb decisions. But yeah, and then you just have so many others that continue on that. And one thing I should point out to you, you know what originally they were going to do before doing King Ghidorah?
What?
They were going to try to do a new Godzilla King Kong. Didn't work, and I'm kind of grateful. Especially when you go off of if you ever see the 70s Kong, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it would have been...
It sort of would have detracted from the overall theme that they had going on.
Exactly. So King Ghidorah ended up being the better one. But again, comparing it to the Showa, again, it's a whole different kettle of fish. Showa was, let's just throw out a movie and hope it's good. This one felt like, let's continue telling a story. You want to say more?
No, but I think we've said basically all that's needed to in this part.
All right. Well, what about Godzilla, Heisei Godzilla versus Gamera Heisei?
As fond as I became of Gamera, I definitely understand why the big G ended up taking the crown here.
Yep, because Gamera had a great start. But despite what other people keep saying, we do not feel it had a great finish. Especially compared to Destroyah.
Oh yeah, Destroyah was an infinitely better finish.
And while we both agree, Legion, it was Legion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Legion was the best one, and was the best one. It was the Space Godzilla of the trilogy, Would you agree with that? Like, it had very little overall impact compared to giving out when you realize they could have put more that would have set up 3.
Yeah.
Like, the most that came over were destruction of the necklace and the mana cannon.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like everything was built up for those 2 things that then go along in the third one and no other setup. Because the third one, it felt like it had too much crammed in that they could have set up in the second one. But I will say this though, I think the suit work in Gamera was a lot better.
That's perfectly fair.
I think the fights were better in Gamera. I will say this, and we've teased about it before, too many Beam Wars in the Godzilla Heisei. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, it just
Way
like...
too many Beam Wars where they're just blasting. Mostly because those suits don't move very well.
Yeah, whereas like Gamera, yeah, that suit work was really super dynamic and really fun.
And a lot of movements and everything. And again, they weren't relying on, it was more like, nope, scratches, bites, everything. And in fact, the best fight I think we had of the Godzilla Heisei one, and I mean best as far as movement and everything, was Mothra.
Yeah, because it's just like you had sort of like the aerial dimension added in by having both of the like 2 flying creatures. It was basically like a giant version of trying to catch a fly that's buzzing around.
Exactly. Then I think Space Godzilla had probably one of the other best as well. But again, that's because Space Godzilla could fly around and everything, and you had Mogera being a great fighter. Because it had all the drills, it didn't have to rely on it, on the blast. But again, I think Gamera, there's a reason why people, I can see why a lot of people say it's one of the best kaiju trilogies. Because it is. But when you compare it to Godzilla, Godzilla does take the crown over for Heisei. Overall, because Gamera felt, now to be fair, I think I already stated, but we both agree, Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe, is better than Godzilla 1985. Way better. In fact, I would say it's what you would give you mix Biollante with Godzilla 1985. Would you agree with that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is so well done, well told, well made, well everything, you know? But if there's one downside, aside from, again, I forget her name, you know, Steven Seagal's daughter, and the one reporter girl who came back in the third one, and the police officer. Aside from those 3, there aren't really that many memorable characters in the Gamera trilogy. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, the one girl, she's pretty much our Miki. Would you at least agree with that one? She was our Miki?
Yeah.
But yeah, but overall though, comparing it, it's hard.
It really is.
It's hard. It's both hard and easy. It's easy to say Godzilla wins out, but it's hard to explain why.
Just kind of one of those sort of you know it when you see it that's hard to quantify.
Exactly. And now, had Iris been a better finale, it would have won out. Unfortunately, that's where the stumbling came from. If Iris had stuck the landing, it would be better than Godzilla. But it was such, I'll say it was such a botched ending. Not the ending itself. The ending itself was just as good as Destroyah. I would say that. The very last shot.
Yeah, but it's just the rest of the movie that's the problem.
Exactly. The villain could have been like Destroyah.
It really could have been.
But it wasn't. It was because they made it so confusing. You didn't need the girl in the end. Yada, yada, yada. Now, when we just did our Gamera one, we came up with a how we would have redone everything with Gamera for a modern telling. Lately, behind the scenes, Ingrid and I have been doing our own, how would we continue the MonsterVerse, but add in more elements. This has got our juices flowing, even, the show itself got our juices flowing, but this even more so.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I mean, what ideas have you come up with? You don't have to go over all of them, just in general, what ideas have you just given you? I would say one, I don't think we should go for the time travel, or at least not in the way it did where it made it confusing as all hell.
Yeah, we can just leave out the time travel.
Or if we have it, they come back for simplistic reasons, and we don't try and make it so confusing. Like, we spell it out, clear as day.
Yeah, or it's just like, another one is how to do Space Invaders better. Because that is one thing that we got out of Space Godzilla that was good.
Exactly.
You have the Space Invaders be the consequence of previous actions as opposed to coming right the frick out of nowhere.
Like maybe Space Godzilla's formed and attack some of the other worlds, and that triggers them to come to Earth. Like, hey, we detected this thing came from here. Now we're not going to tell you that part. We're going to keep that to ourselves because we don't think you deserve to know. You deserve to just be invaded.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, you took our world. Now we're going to take ours back to make things even. And then, because they didn't know what happened, it's like, yeah, what the F, man?
Yeah, but again, I think they're not going to even bother telling them. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not going to even tell you what it is because you don't deserve to know.
Or a you know what you did kind of scenario.
Exactly. And they don't even go into details until Space Godzilla eventually shows up. And then they start to put pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do think Destroyah should be, even for MonsterVerse, it should be the final.
Oh yeah, and we gotta have some nice stuff with Junior. We really do. Junior was so good.
Oh, we need to introduce Junior first.
Yeah.
And we're going with the Heisei. No Minya.
No Minya.
Now, again, do you see why I hate Minya now?
Yes, because there's so much better executed version of him out there.
Exactly. And of course you're saying after, but even with Son of Godzilla, if you just had Son of a Godzilla, this was so much better than even that.
Mm-hmm.
Because Godzilla wants to be a dad here. Not there.
Yeah.
But overall though, we're not going as long as we did for King Ghidorah and for Gamera, but I think it's because we've already said enough as we needed to on the other videos.
Yeah, we really have.
So, yeah. I mean, is there any other final thoughts or anything you want to add? Anything at all that you think we've missed?
I just want to say, it's been a lot of fun going on this kaiju romp in a time where life maybe isn't the greatest. It's a nice way to kind of like lighten up and have some fun.
Yep. Well, going into next video, we did this months ago. Sorry about that. But we're going to add a little addendum afterwards as we go over the start of the Millennium series with Godzilla 2000.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
You remember how that went, right? You want to give anyone a
Vaguely.
want to give anyone a tease? Orga, remember Orga?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, monster. The guy from Godzilla, Mothra, Battle for Earth. All that. Godzilla! That guy.
Ah.
Okay, she'll remember it probably by then. All right. We'll see you guys later.